lesson 6. We start with the Niyamas. The Yamas are refusals. Non-violence, non-lying, non-stealing, chastity, non-desire. You refuse to go along with instinctive behavior that causes violence, lying, theft, unchaste behavior, and life dominated by desires. Niyamas are in line with the yamas, but niyamas, the nature of the niyamas is more proactive. The principles, not like the yamas refusals, instead they are principles that we introduce into our lives and we try to live in accordance with. So the yamas are defensive, while the niyamas are more like offensive in nature. You have to actively live up to them. The first of the niyamas is Shaucha, which is purity. Now, purity by many yoga teachers is explained as physical hygiene. And basically that is the subject closed. Physical hygiene is of course part of purity, but it's only a very small aspect of it, and it's even something that we don't talk about because everybody understands that. Purity is like with the yamas, it's more about how we function in daily life and how very often we do or say or even think things that are not pure. I will give you some examples, but first, Shaucha, to be pure means to be consequent. I wrote that in the handout, and because the word consequent is not a commonly used word in the English language, the editor of the text put an explanation in a footnote at the bottom. It's in the English handout. I'm not sure if that it's translated into the Korean file, but consequent is a word that is very often heard in the Dutch language. It is spelled the same and pronounced almost the same as in English. And while in English the word is barely used and most people never heard it, in Dutch you hear it every day. You have to be consequent, you have to act consequent. The English word that comes close and that is very often used in daily language is consistency. Being consistent. So being consequent, acting in a consequent manner means do what you say and say what you do. If you say that you are going to do something, then do it. Sounds strange because you think people function like that. The reality is many people, most people, they promise things and they never do it. Or they do it in a different way and then they have all kinds of excuses of why they did it. That is impure. So, do what you say what you do. Impurity or purity is also about the motive why you do or say something. That sounds a little bit strange, but if you observe people communicating with one another, you notice that people communicate in an indirect way very often. And they, in an indirect way, people manipulate others by saying something that has a double meaning. And when you then ask them about it, they say, I didn't do anything wrong. But very clearly with what they say, they give you a message of negativity, accusing you of something, or asking a rhetorical question, making you feel guilty, or making you feel bad, or making you feel stupid. And it happens all the time. It's almost like as if it is normal for people to communicate like that. That is very impure. If you have something to say, be honest. That is one of the yamas. Truthfulness. By using double bottom messages, saying something nice but with actually a nasty or a mean message hidden in it, it violates several of the yamas. In the end, it is very impure. Pay attention, because we are all wired to function like this. But when you become aware of it, you cannot do this anymore, because it feels really bad. It gives you a bad taste in your mouth when people communicate with you in that way. And you will feel bad about yourself when you realize that you are communicating in such a way yourself as well. So it's only a matter of time that in a very natural way, because you become aware of this, you will make corrections and you will try to avoid it. And people communicating to you in such a way, you will try to avoid. Also, acting in a consequent way or a consistent way, an example of that is when you say to yourself, I'm going to do yoga. You're going to do yoga? You promise yourself that you're going to do that? Then try to do it. How many times does it happen that you have good intentions because you know it's good for you? Every time you do, it feels good, it feels right. You want to do it every day. But then you find yourself giving up again. And every time we give up, we become ineffective. We lose track. And psychologically, this has a very deep impact on us because we feel as if we are failing. We feel like a failure, not being able to even do something simple like that. It's not easy to have the discipline, but it is so satisfying. It gives such strong sense of accomplishment. It gives such strong sense of self-respect. It's not easy, but it has many positive implications, effect on our psychological state of being. With meditation, set a time and stick to it. Even when the neighbors start drilling holes in the wall, making noise, or the garbage truck is passing by, collecting garbage in the street, making a lot of noise. Meditation means you are aware, because you learn to observe, you are aware of the disturbance, but you decide not to be disturbed by it. So first there is anger, like why are they making so much noise? Then you say, no, it's okay. and you just try to go back to nada. It's about control. Control of your instinctive reaction to stop meditating, but also control of how the outside world is affecting you and determining your peace of mind, determining how you will act and react. The Hatha Yoga Pradipika says you will become the master of the universe. Then people think master of the universe. They think about Star Trek or Star Wars or something like that, master of the universe. No, it sounds mysterious and unbelievable, but master of the universe means that you become unperturbed, undisturbable. It means that whatever happens around you, you will not be disturbed by it. You will not be distracted by it. And it's very difficult in the beginning, because what happens in our surroundings determines how we function. And when the environment around us is very disturbing and distracting, we become disturbed and distracted. Being the master of the universe means that the universe, the environment, the world around us can do whatever they want. But I will stick to what I have chosen to do, regardless. That is purity. So in the beginning, that is not easy, because we are conditioned to function like that. It's instinctive. It's an animal-like nature that we have had since hundreds of thousands of years to function like that. But we have Ajna Chakra, we have choice. We can say, no, I refuse to go along with that. I will stick to what I promised myself to do. And if the neighbors start making noise or the garbage truck passes by, well, those people have to do what they do. I will do what I have to do. It's not easy. I will do it anyway. And this is where you build character. This is where you do this in your meditation or in your yoga practice. You will benefit from it in your private life, in your daily life, in your professional life. It will shape you into another human being with other qualities. Purity also means, or comes back to, what we talked about in the previous session, that is to follow the heart. Follow your feeling. We live in a world where many people make you believe that following your feeling is foolish, is emotional, is unstable. So they tell you to focus on your intellect, on your study, on what you have to do, according to parents, teachers, government. The result is that many people are disconnected from themselves. They don't know really who they are. They don't know really what they have to do in life other than what they are told to do, what they are educated to do. Purity, Shaucha, in this respect, means to be true to your heart. If I had not been true to my heart, I would have regretted the rest of my life that I didn't at least try to go to Korea to practice more Hapkido with my Korean Hapkido teacher. Purity also means when I met Pada and I felt his need, if I had ignored him because I made a vow never to have a dog anymore, or because other people said, You're crazy, you don't even have an income. Let other people take care of it. If I had not taken care of it, today I would be wondering, where is he? Is he still alive? I would regret for the rest of my life that I didn't heed the call of the universe to help a being in need. The purity is to follow the heart, even when that means that it makes life challenging. The dogs turned my life upside down. They destroyed my mattress, my cushions, electricity cables, phone rechargers. They destroyed so many things in my house. But it didn't bother me. I just wanted to give them stability so that they become normal, happy dogs. And they are so sweet. When I meet people in the park, they say, "Oh, 무서워." They're so scared. And then they say, "Wow, 엄청 순하네." They're so sweet. They don't bark. They don't attack other dogs. They're just unbelievably nice. You know why? Because of sattva. Because of stability. Because of daily routine. That's the power of sattva. On page 2, towards the bottom, you see this donkey going up in the air. That is not so important, but the text that surrounds that illustration is crucial. In order to purify ourselves, we must let go of all the negative sentiments that everybody carries with them. Anger, malice, hatred, jealousy, guilt. Things that happened in the past make people walk around in the present carrying all these poisonous sentiments with them. And it makes your life miserable. If you think about it rationally, it's something that happened years ago that is still affecting you today. These sentiments, these kind of emotions are human. They have a function. Their function is not to make our lives miserable. That's what they do because we undergo these emotions subconsciously. So we just become the victim and repetitively. And if we don't pay attention, we will be the victim of these negative experiences that happened long time ago for the rest of our life. People then will say, but I have a right to feel like this. I have a right to be angry because they treated me bad. Or sometimes we have done something wrong in the past to other people and we feel guilty about that. And we think that we deserve to feel guilty about that. Okay, fine. But how is that going to help us? It doesn't. It's only distracting us and it absorbs lots of energy that we then cannot use for more positive and constructive things in life. Emotions, anger, hatred, guilt, but also blame. These are only signals that something went wrong. So instead of suffering from it, we need to do something with it. One of the things that we need to understand, and we will talk about this a lot more from now on, is that because we function subconsciously, many things that we do or say, we do because of ignorance. You know what ignorance means, right? It's a Latin word basically, but it means not knowing. We are stupid because we are just not aware. We just don't know. So, if we have done something wrong in the past, now we suffer because we feel guilty. You have to understand, or you will understand, that what you did in the past that was wrong, you didn't do it on purpose. If you did it on purpose, it's evil. Most people are not evil. And the few people that really are evil, they're being locked up. They're in prison for the rest of their lives, and they throw away the key. Real evil is very rare. So most of the things that went wrong, they went wrong out of ignorance. So it is important for yourself to be able to move on, that you understand this. Yes, it's true. I did wrong. I did hurt somebody, or I did wrong to somebody. But I was ignorant. Now I know it will never happen again. And that's the only way to go forward. So what does this mean? We have to learn to forgive ourselves for the things that we did wrong in the past. And that is how you deal with guilt. How do you deal with blame? You're angry at your parents because maybe they beat you up when you were a child. Or maybe you were abused when you were a child. You're angry at the people who did that. You're angry at your teachers. You're angry at an uncle or an aunt or neighbor. Or somebody who bullied you when you were in school. Anger poisons you inside. You have a right to be angry because people did wrong to you, but the anger becomes a poison. How do you deal with that? In the same way as you deal with blame. People who treated you wrong, they did wrong for the same reason that you did wrong to other people. They were ignorant. Maybe they still are ignorant. What does that mean? We have to learn to forgive ourselves for our ignorance and the things that we did wrong. We have to extend that to other people too. We have to learn to forgive other people for the wrong that they did because they were ignorant. Why is this important? For our peace of mind, for our mental health, this is important. Not because you're a nice person that just wants to forgive everybody for doing wrong. No, this has a very practical purpose. It is to free yourself from a prison of negative emotions caused by things that happened in the past. In severe cases, in extreme cases, it can paralyze people. People become dysfunctional because they are filled with negative emotions, with guilt, with blame, with anger, with hatred. They can't function. They can't have a job. They can't have a family, take care of a family. They're dysfunctional. That is an extreme example, but on a more moderate level, in our cases probably, it's still disrupting and distracting. And on a practical level, you cannot turn back the clock. You cannot go back into the past and change things. The best thing you can do is move forward, but that's only possible if you can deal with these issues in a rational way. As a yogi, you will develop a heart. And it will even be possible to develop compassion for the people that you hated before. Why? How is this possible? Because you connect with their heart. You make soul connection with them. And that automatically entails that you understand, just like you, they are only human. Just like you, although you become less and less ignorant, but just like you, they were ignorant too when they did wrong. You know, when I came to Korea in 1997, I still very clearly remember one day I was in the subway and I saw a seat, a vacant seat. So I walked towards the seat to sit down, and just before I sat down, I was pushed out of the way by some harmony. And the first reaction is, of course, what the f... You get angry, you explode in anger. But I just took a deep breath and I tried to understand what just happened. In the same way that I developed a vision of what happened between Pada and Babi and how everything connected, I then realized that this harmony is not a bad person, because I understood where this behavior comes from. Do you understand where that kind of behavior comes from? From the Korean War. 1950, 1953, the country was totally destroyed by the war. There were no trees on the mountains anymore. There was no food. And you know whose responsibility it was to feed the family? This Harmony when she was young. And there was nothing. She had to fight to get food for her husband and her children and her parents probably. And the United Nations came with food aid. So the trucks go into the village with bags of rice, oil, sugar, flour. And the truck stops in the middle of the village and starts handing out to the villagers bags of rice and flour and cooking oil and sugar. And there's never enough. So people are standing in line and they think, oh my God, it's not enough. I have to fight to get mine. My children are hungry, they're dying. So what happens? Elbows. The same that she did. That behavior that happened that day in the subway was conditioned during the war. And when I understood that, my heart melted. And I just felt sorry for her. I couldn't be angry anymore. And I counted my blessings. I thought, I'm so lucky that I didn't have to live through that terrible time, that terrible war. Make sense? Why is this difficult to do? Because of ego. Ego tells you, what is happening with me? Why do I have to allow this to happen? I should do something about this. Because of ego, we cannot let go of anger, of hatred, of blame. Because we think, I have a right to. But as long as you keep thinking like that, as long as you cannot overcome ego, you will suffer as a result. That is why it is so important to overcome ego and to deal with these emotions in a rational way. If not, you will suffer from it for the rest of your life. And remember, I say it again, you cannot turn back the clock. You cannot change what happened in the past. What you can do is change how you deal with it. And what you can do is change how you go into the future. The past is the past. Let it go. I have another example that applies to this. When I come from a big family. There was a lot of turmoil in my family when we were young, especially in our teenage years. But I found yoga and it changed my life, and I moved out and lived on my own since I was 20 years old. But I cared about my family, and I had two brothers that were addicted to drugs and alcohol, and we grew up together. We did everything together when we were little children, and as teenagers too. I chose my own way. They continued on the path of self-destruction. I tried to help them, of course. Family is blood. It's very difficult to rationalize. Even though you decided you have to take care of yourself, without knowing it, it's still affecting you. And I realized later that's affected me very deeply. The thing is, I was studying and training yoga with Ajita. I went to school in the evening to prepare, and I found it difficult to focus, and I dropped out and had to start all over again. So one day I called Ajita. I was kind of desperate and lost, and I called Ajita and I said, Ajit, can I visit you and come and talk with you? So he kind of reluctantly agreed. So he said, okay, just come. Then he invited me just before dinner so that we didn't have so much time. It's kind of, maybe later you will understand why. He just didn't want to spend too much time on it. But he did something very remarkable. He said, Ron, sit down. He had this small two-seat IKEA bench, sofa. We sat down. He said, okay, Ron, now tell me, what is bothering you? So I started telling about my brothers and their misery and my misery because I couldn't help them. And he said, Ron, stop. Don't talk about the past. He said, instead, what do you want? So I said, I want to go to Korea. Then he said, what do you need to do for that? So I said, I need to finish my study with you. I need to finish my night school. And I need to save enough money to go, to live there. Then he said, from now on, from today, stop worrying about your past. Stop thinking about your past. Come back to my class. Go back to your night class, education, and keep working to make enough money. And when you're ready, go to Korea. Since then, that's exactly what I did. And it was such a liberation to be able to let that go. If I had not that simple conversation with Ajita, which lasted only 5 minutes, I would still be struggling. I would probably have failed at everything that I was trying to do. That is why it's so important to let go of the past. Because it will hold you back. Forgive, do not forget, learn valuable lessons, and realize you cannot go back to change things. But what you can do is take control and create your own future. Yeah? And very important in this process is to let go of ego. Ego is the big spoiler here. Ego will make you think, I have a right to be emotional. I have a right to hold on to the past. You can see, go to any bar. If you go to a bar, there are many people in the bar drinking beer, thinking about the past. And when you talk with them, all they can talk about is the past. And every evening, if you meet them every evening they same story again and again. And it's always misery. It's always sad stories. They can't let go. 20 years later, 30 years later, they're still drinking beer talking about that issue. What a life is that? We don't want to live like that. It's because of ego. Your ego doesn't allow you to let go. You must let go for your own sake, for your own mental health, for your own happiness. Right? Very impure, going back to a little simpler level of impurity, is making jokes with which you hurt people. You hear them all the time. People making sarcastic jokes, which they are criticizing you, but then they say, oh, it was just a joke. That is mean. That is really very impure. So when you make a joke, let it be an innocent joke so that everybody can laugh. Finally then, the media. I wrote novels are impure and TV is impure. I wrote this when internet barely existed and social media didn't exist at all at that time. But now, of course, you have Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and what have you. Believe it or not, many people are deeply influenced by exposure to the media. I already gave an example of my sisters and the whole bunch of friends they are surrounded with, how they identify with mafia movies, the Godfather series, the Scarface, and Once Upon a Time in America, all these kind of movies. They have just taken on the image of Robert De Niro and Al Pacino in their own daily life. That is impure. Just be who you are. These days, of course, you have the social media. People watch the influencers, follow influencers all the time, and as long as you can see it as entertainment, it's okay. But when you start copying behavior of the influencers or behavior of the TV series that you follow, the drama that you follow, then you are losing your own personality. You're starting to play a role that it's not you. And it may sound a little bit dramatic, but if you pay attention, there are actually many people that do this. In Korea, it's Gangnam style. I lived in Sadangdong, which is a relatively poor neighborhood compared to the southern part. Sadangdong is southern part, but on the west side. There were people that would dress up, and they even call it Gangnam style. But they don't go to work in a Mercedes-Benz or a BMW. They take the mall bus to go to the subway station. But in the meantime, they feel like Gangnam style because they wear their fancy leather boots and they have their fancy hairstyle. I mean, it's fine if that makes you feel good, but it's impure. What we are addressing here is the issue that we are very easily influenced by what we see. So for us to stay true to our heart, to practice purity, is be aware of that. And just be yourself. Don't try to be something or to act like something. Many yoga teachers do that too, you know. Male yoga teachers, they don't take care of their hair anymore. They just grow wild hair and a beard and a mustache and they put on some fancy clothes, funny clothes, I would say, because they want to show to everybody, hey, I'm a yoga teacher. That's not what a yoga teacher is. Well, I'm wearing a shirt that says yoga, but for the rest, if you see me in the street, nobody would think that I'm a yoga teacher. Because I'm just myself. Also, when I'm teaching, I'm not pretending to be a yoga teacher. I'm just being myself. What I'm teaching is based on decades of study, but not only that, experience. Well, yoga is the study of life, the science of life. And that's what even if I hadn't studied yoga, I would have found another way to express that to the outside world, one way or another. Maybe as a counselor, or as a psychologist, or a street corner worker, or one way or another, it would have manifested in some way. So I don't like the title of yoga teacher or yogacharya or whatever. That's all superficial. What matters is the content. That is purity. What many yoga teachers do is they act like being a yoga teacher, but the content is empty, or it is fake. They don't know what they're doing or what they're talking about. But as long as people want to pay for that and they can make a living, well, everything goes. But that can never, from my point of view, that can never be satisfactory. That can never lead to self-respect. Yeah? That's purity, practice of purity. Then, of course, as I mentioned at the beginning, purity also means taking care of yourself in a sense of hygiene, but also eating proper foods. Because food determines your condition. Our condition, our energy, is our most precious asset, most important possession. If we eat poor food, which is processed and super processed foods, it badly affects our condition, our health, and with that, our energy. So for me, before I came to Korea, I worked in a health food store for 5 years or so. So for me, food has always been about eating as natural as possible. So I always cook. I make my own breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I hardly ever eat outside. If I do, I eat a proper meal, not junk or super processed food. But these days, 70% of the food you find in a supermarket is not natural anymore. That is actually shocking. And you can see that also when you look at younger generations. Most of what they eat is not healthy. Most of what they eat and drink is not healthy anymore. Of course, you can enjoy these kind of things. who doesn't like a snack once in a while, or a hamburger once in a while, or French fries, or ramyun, for that matter. But if it becomes fixed part of your diet, like every day, then it starts to seriously affect you. If it's a treat once in a while, it doesn't matter, it doesn't affect you. If generally you eat pretty healthy food, and once in a while you eat unhealthy food, it really doesn't matter. You're healthy, you're strong. It's just about the pattern, it's just about if you regularly eat healthy food, your health is good. If you regularly eat unhealthy food, in the same way, you will not be all that healthy. All right. Questions about Shaucha? All right, let's have a short break. Then we start with asana.